Alright YouTube, this here is Mr. Bojangles. Today I'm going to make some soup. This is going to be pho broth that I'm making out of all my old beef bones. The first step to making pho broth is to kind of roughly chop up basically I'm making a lot. This is going to be a big batch. So I got my onion here, ginger, what do you call these, coriander, fennel, star anise, some cloves, cinnamon, some garlic, and cardamom. Cardamom I don't have. I'm gonna, my wife, Mrs. Bojangles, is on her way to the store right now to go get some. The oven's preheated. We're gonna roast these until they get some black on the edges, and it's just gonna make the whole house smell great. And then I'll show you the next step. Alright, that stuff is roasting in the oven. It smells great. Went down to the freezer, and this is our bone collection from the last year. I see we bought some soup bones at one point. So some soup bones, prime rib bones, more prime rib bones, more prime rib bones, prime rib bones, prime rib bone, prime rib bones, prime rib bones, prime rib bones, and more soup bones. So, as you can imagine, we're making quite a bit of soup. We're going to make 10 gallons of soup. Let's check on this. Ooh, woo! That smells incredible. Alright, I'll come back to you when we're putting the soup together. Alright, so after about 10 minutes, the smell of the spices started getting really strong. I think I remember this happening last time and I just forgot. I should write this down. The spices don't need as long as the onions and garlic and ginger and such. So I would put the spices and that stuff on 2 separate racks, take the spices out first, let the other stuff go a little bit longer till it gets kind of, just sort of charred. The cloves cook way too fast. You might not, I wouldn't even roast the cloves. I just put a few cloves in after. Alright. Alright. We got our onions. They're kind of opening up. A little bit of black on the tips. Garlic's golden brown. We got that. We got our spices. And we're ready to make some soup. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to be making this soup in is my brew kettle. So this is a 15-gallon keg. It's electricity powered. It drains out the bottom. There's a valve there, and the hose is here. I can recirculate the soup through a pump, come back in here if I want to make sure everything is sanitized using the boiling soup liquid. Now this basket is where all the bones are going to go and all the stuff for the broth. So this is going to sit inside here like that. Bones are going to go in there. I'm going to dump the bones in. I'm going to rinse them off. I'm going to drain the stuff that I rinse off. Then I'm going to put water in it. I'm going to put the onions, everything. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do with the spices. I have a separate basket that's going to keep them separate. The goal is nice, clear broth. Okay, I'll show you. Okay, I unpackaged all the bones. I rinsed them off. Nothing's freezer burnt. There's a good collection of bones in here. There's like, oh man, look at this. Some of these are so good. So I rinsed off, some of the spices and stuff that were used when we're cooking these prime ribs. There's going to be a little bit of character in the soup from the prime rib and the spices we use, but it'll be minimal. So there's our bones. I'm going to just put some water in here and fire it up. Okay, we added the water and we added our onions and stuff that we roasted there, the ginger, all that stuff, and we turned her on 7.5 degrees Celsius right now because everything was frozen, so it's going to take a little bit to get to a simmer, and we'll come back to it as we go, and then I'll show you how I add the spices. Yeah. Okay, so like before, we got our stuff you saw. Now our spices. Now usually I just throw all the spices right in there, but this time and able to better control how much of the flavor from the spices is in the soup is I have this fine mesh stainless steel filter. I'm just going to stick this right in here like that. I'm going to pour, and this is a mixture of spices, kind of just a little bit of everything. That's kind of how I like it. So I'm pretty happy with the mixture, and I know that's about how much I'm going to need for this volume. So now these are going to stay in here, and they're not going to plug up the valve or anything like that. When this basket comes out, there's a pulley. When this basket comes out and this comes out, there's going to be nothing but crystal clear broth. So I'll probably get back to you after when everything's, at a simmer, and then at the end when I package it up, and maybe this time we'll get a taste. And the only thing that we'll have to add to this should be salt, and for the salt we're using fish sauce, and it's gonna be good. I'll tell you what, it's gonna be good. All right, here we are after a couple hours. Had a little taste. It's tasting beefy. Probably let this simmer for at least 4 more hours. Now a simmer, when you're making a beef broth, isn't a boil. A simmer is actually just the slightest little bit of action in the pot, little bubbles coming up. Under 200 degrees is where you want to be. And the last time I made broth, I didn't know that. But everybody, all the people who are old, they all know that. That's normal knowledge. But us millennial folk, or Generation Y or X or whatever the heck I am, we don't know this stuff, so we're learning. But that's a simmer. These are the spices. I added some black peppercorns, and I added the bay leaves. And we're just going to let this go. And then near the end, I'm going to pull out, when I pull out this pot and it's just the broth, I'll adjust the volume if I need to with water, and then I will adjust the salt, and I will add the salt and the sugar. And once I get it right to my taste, so long as I don't have the COVID, it should come out perfect. If for some reason I have the COVID, I don't know, it's going to be really sweet and salty. All right. All right, the soup's been going for almost 6 hours. I fish sauced it, I salted it, I brown sugared. I know you're supposed to use yellow candy sugar, but I mean, really, the yellow light brown sugar is basically the same. Let's be honest. I've skimmed most of the fat off the top. I got almost a whole bowl full. I'm going to pull the basket out with the pulley, and we're going to do a final volume adjustment, do a final taste. I just took the spices out. It's well spiced. I might recirculate through the pump and filter it back through that fine basket. But what we got so far is a super clear, nice broth. And it's gonna be good. All right, I hoisted out the goodies. Now we've got our broth here. Let's see if I can. Now I've got most of the fat. See, there's just a little bit of fat left, so I'm just going to carefully strain it out. The rest of the fat, so that there's no fat. I've got about 9.5 gallons of soup here. And this is going to be probably the best pho broth that I have ever made. Slow simmering, skimming the fat, attention to detail. Oh, ho, ho. Yeah, it's a bit of work, but it's Not bad when you're making, you know, I'll probably top it off to 10 gallons. So 10 gallons of soup. Not bad. All right, soup is done. We're happy with the taste. And now we're packaging it up into these soup containers. We've got a super nice clear broth. You want to zoom on the broth there, Mrs. Bojangles? And we're just going to town filling these containers with 9.5 gallons of soup. Very nice. Okay, I need you to put some lid. All right. The soup making is complete. And here it all is. Nice clear. Oh yeah. Yum, yum, yum. Woo-wee. Look at the color. Oh, the color. The clarity in the color. Outstanding. No fat on the top. Oh, just beautiful. I say job well done. What do you say, Mrs. Bojangles?
Oh, very well done, Mr. Bojangles.
All right, Mr. Bojangles, over and out.